Spring 1995, Ridgemont Medical Center, Georgia, 2:17 p.m. The operating room sterile hum stops dead as Dr. Thomas Wilson's scalpel hovers, glinting under harsh lights. Beneath Howard Mitchell's weathered neck, a grotesque mass, long brushed off as a simple lipoma, splits open to reveal something impossible. A metallic gleam pulses within the flesh, alien and wrong. When God's name, Dr. Wilson's whisper cuts the silence, his 30 years of surgical mastery unraveling. For 28 years, Howard hid this growth under scarves, silencing its throbbing pain and the Vietnam ghosts it carried. Get Dr. Blackwood now, he snaps, pulse racing. The nurse stumbles back, hand over a mask, eyes locked on the unthinkable. What secret has Howard's body guarded for decades? And what truth is it about to unleash? You're part of this mystery. Share your thoughts below and tell us where you're watching from. The lump appeared without warning in 1995, a small, painless bump below Howard Mitchell's hairline. He found it shaving one morning, 7 months after burying Martha, his wife of 20 years. The bathroom mirror reflected a tired man, 43, with gray creeping into his temples. Martha's rose-scented lotion still sat on the counter, her hairbrush untouched. "Probably nothing," he muttered, but her voice echoed. "Get that checked, Howie." He ignored it, just as he'd ignored the tremors in his hand since Vietnam, or her pleas to see a doctor when her headaches began. Mitchell men didn't run to doctors. His father's words rang clear. A man carries his burdens alone. Howard's construction company was thriving that year, breaking ground on Ridgemont's new community center. Work kept him moving, a shield against grief that threatened to root him to the porch where he sat each night, bourbon in hand. Thunderstorms rolled in that spring, their rumble pulling him back to 1969. Monsoon rains, helicopter rotors, the weight of Samuel Parker bleeding out in his arms. The memory hit so hard, he dropped his glass. Bourbon splattering the deck. Martha had stained herself. "Get it together, Mitchell," he growled, pressing the lump. It felt warm, alive. He bought higher-collared shirts the next day, then scars despite George's heat. By month's end, he declined a pool opening, avoiding curious eyes. The lump became his secret, a physical echo of deeper wounds. Martha's death, Samuel's loss, the guilt of surviving Vietnam when others didn't. What harm could come from ignoring one small bump? He thought. Martha would have known better. Fast forward to 2023. Howard, now 73, sat in his dimly lit living room, scarf adjusted despite the July heat. The lump, once a marble, was now an orange, pressing his spine, making sleep impossible unless propped in a recliner. His daughter, Sarah, a nurse, had given up pleading years ago. His grandson, Jack, avoided looking at it. Only Emma, his 18-year-old granddaughter, kept pushing. "It's worse, Grandpa," she said at Sunday dinners, medical textbooks by her plate. "I can tell by how you hold your head." Howard grunted, redirecting to Jack's military enlistment or Sarah's hospital promotion. But Emma was relentless. At a Johns Hopkins Medical School interview, she spoke of Howard's refusal to seek help as her inspiration. "Watching him suffer in silence showed me how many endure pain rather than ask for help. I want to bridge that gap." The panel nodded. Unaware, Howard sat 40 miles away, scarf tight, hiding a companion. One Sunday, Emma called. "No dinner unless you see a doctor. Non-negotiable." Howard bristled. "Since when does a child dictate terms?" "Since you can't lie flat without pain," she shot back. Sarah, in his kitchen, nodded. The Mitchell women had allied. Defeated, Howard agreed to see Dr. Wilson. "Fine, but I'm going alone." "Like hell," Sarah replied. The week crawled by. Howard touched the mass often, as a bidding farewell to an old friend. It had seen him through Sarah's wedding, the twins' birth, retirement, decades of silent company. At Ridgemont Medical Center, Dr. Wilson, silver-haired and kind, surprised him. "My father was like you," he said. "Korea vet. Wouldn't see a doctor unless his arm was falling off." Howard relaxed slightly. Vietnam. 2 tours. Unwinding the scarf felt like shedding armor. Dr. Wilson's eyes widened briefly at the massive size. "How long?" "Since 95. Sarah interjected, "He can't sleep flat. It throbs." Wilson's gentle probing made Howard wince. "We need an MRI tomorrow, surgery by Friday. It's likely a lipoma, but its size and location near the spine are concerning." Howard's mouth went dry. "Surgery?" Emma leaned in. "What's the timeline?" "Fast," Wilson said. "No reason to delay." That night, alone in his recliner, Howard prayed, not for survival, but for courage to face what lay beneath his denial. What's hiding in your silence? What truth are you afraid to uncover? The operating room hummed with precision. Monitors beeped, tracking Howard's vitals as Dr. Wilson made the first incision. The mass, nestled against the cervical spine, was a textbook lipoma, fatty, well-defined. "Capsule looks clean," Wilson noted, dissecting carefully. For 20 minutes, the team worked in focused silence, the procedure routine despite the massive size. Then Wilson's scalpel paused. Something glinted under the lights. "Hand me the finer forceps," he said, voice tight. The room tensed. "There's a foreign object," Wilson said, retracting tissue. "Metallic." The resident leaned in. "In a lipoma?" "Not just a lipoma," Wilson murmured, extracting a tarnished object. Silence fell as he held it up. "Dog tags. Military." Nurse Jenkins gasped. "Are those—" "Parker Samuel J.," Wilson read. "Blood type O negative. Protestant." Dr. Eleanor Blackwood, the pathologist, entered, her eyes widening. "The bodies encapsulated them, like a biological safe. Extraordinary." Another object emerged, shrapnel, dime size, preserved alongside the tags. "This is unprecedented," Wilson said, resuming the surgery with heightened care. 90 minutes later, the mass was removed, sutures placed, and the specimen sent to pathology. 30 years as a surgeon, Wilson said, stepping back. Never seen anything like this. In recovery, Howard woke, groggy, his neck strangely light. Wilson sat beside him, the dog tags in the specimen container. "We found these inside the mass," he said. Howard's face paled. "Samuel Parker," he whispered, voice breaking. "You know him?" Wilson asked. Howard nodded, heart rate spiking. "I need Sarah." Sarah entered, assessing her father before noticing the tags. "Dad." Howard's voice cracked. "Sammy's tags. From Vietnam. I thought he died in my arms." Sarah's eyes widened, recalling his letter, written the night before surgery, confessing his guilt over Samuel's death. "How?" she asked. Wilson explained the biological capsule, a rare adaptation, preserving the tags for decades. Howard clutched the container. "I carried him back. Thought he was gone." Wilson suggested contacting Veterans Affairs for records. Howard, suddenly fierce, said, "I've waited 55 years. I'm not waiting another minute." Sarah urged recovery first, but Howard insisted, "If Sammy's out there, I need to know." Wilson compromised. "Stay overnight. We'll discharge you tomorrow." That night, Howard lay awake, the tags beside him. Samuel's face flashed in his mind, grinning mud-streaked, sharing crumbled cookies from his girl, Eliza. Howard had carried his guilt, his failure, for 55 years. But what if Samuel hadn't died? What if the truth was something else entirely? What secrets have you buried so deep you don't even know they're there? 3 days post-surgery, Howard sat at his kitchen table, the dog tags on a handkerchief. Sarah was back at work. Emma arrived with a manila folder. "I called the VA," she said. Samuel Parker was reported missing in action, not killed, in 68 near Quezon. He was a POW, repatriated in 73. Howard's world tilted. He was alive? Emma nodded. Held in a camp near China. Treated at Walter Reed for 2 years. Lost both legs. Howard's voice broke. "Why didn't I know?" Emma showed him records. Samuel's letters to Howard returned. Address unknown. "He tried to find you." She hesitated. "His last known address is Maplewood, Tennessee. 5 years ago, he was alive." Howard stood resolute. "I have to find him." Emma cautioned, "You just had surgery. Wait a week." Howard shook his head. "Friday. You drive." The 7-hour drive to Maplewood felt endless. Jack joined them, maps in hand, asking about Samuel. Howard shared stories. Sammy's harmonica, his wild edible knowledge, his dreams of teaching. He was the best of us, Howard said. In Maplewood, they checked into a motel. Emma had messaged the VA, hoping Samuel would respond. That evening, Howard stepped onto the motel balcony, restless. Across the street at a restaurant, a silver-haired man in a wheelchair was helped from a van. Howard's heart stopped. Sammy, ignoring Emma's plan, he crossed the street, entering the restaurant as Samuel settled at a table. "Sammy," Howard whispered. Samuel looked up, confusion turning to recognition. "Howie, is that you?" They moved to a private garden room. Howard placed the dog tags on the table. "Found these in my neck 3 days ago." Samuel's eyes widened, tracing his name. "You were carrying me," he said, piecing it together. "The mortar hit. You took shrapnel, too." Howard nodded, recounting the blurred chaos of that day. Samuel revealed his survival. Captured, held 5 years, repatriated. "I wrote you in 73. Letters came back. Then a bombshell. Martha found me in 74. We corresponded for years." Howard reeled. Martha had known Samuel was alive, keeping it secret to protect Howard's fragile healing. Her last letter, entrusted to Samuel, sat unopened between them. "Read it," Samuel urged. Howard opened the envelope, Martha's handwriting trembling but clear. "Find Samuel, Howie. Lay down the burden. I've loved you through your silences. Love yourself enough to heal." Howard wept, the weight of 55 years lifting. Samuel's hand gripped his. "We have time now." Emma and Jack joined, meeting their honorary uncle. Samuel shared his life. His wife Eliza, 3 kids, 7 grandkids. Howard spoke of Martha, Sarah, the twins. The night stretched, stories weaving past and present. What would you say to someone you thought was gone forever? 1 year later, Howard stood at Martha's grave, dahlias in hand. The scar on his neck, now faint, marked not shame but healing. Samuel and his family were now part of Howard's, their lives intertwined through monthly visits and shared stories. Emma, in medical school, studied Mitchell's phenomenon, inspired by Howard's case. He and Samuel spoke at veterans groups, helping others unburden trauma. Martha's letter, her final gift, had guided Howard to peace. "The heaviest burdens," she wrote, "are carried alone." Howard no longer was. What burden are you ready to set down? Who's waiting to help you carry it?